Okay, TEKS 12A, exponential function notation practice. So we're going to practice what we learned yesterday. And remember, what we learned yesterday from the previous ed puzzle is that anything inside the parentheses, so that number inside the parentheses is what we're going to be plugging in for x to get our answer. So I'm going to do number 1 and number 2 with you, and then you're going to do number 3 through 10 on your own. So let's look at number 1. So in number 1, it says find f of 1. So f of 1 means we're going to plug in 1 in for x. So this is going to be 4 times 2 to the 1 power. And if we're raising anything to the 1 power, it's not really doing anything. So what's happening is this is just becoming 4 times 2. And we know 4 times 2 is 8. So that's our first answer. When we plug in 1 for x, we get 8. Okay? And then if you notice from the last video, I gave you guys that critical thinking question that said, if we plug in 0 in for x, what would happen? So we learned that if we plug in 0 in for x, we are going to find the y-intercept. And we know that the y-intercept is the number outside of the parentheses. So let me show this. So this is 4 times 2 to the 0 power. Anything to the 0 power is 1. So this is 4 times 1, which is 4. Or we could just know that since it's raised to the 0 power, it's going to be the y-intercept, which is that outside number. Okay, now let's plug in 5. So we have 4 times 2 to the 5th power. So I'm going to plug that into my calculator. So 4 parentheses 2, and I use that caret key to get to the 5th power, and I get 128. And those are my answers, 8, 4, and 128. Okay, let's do the same thing for number 2. So number 2, we're first plugging in f of 1. So I have 4 times 0.45 to the power of 1. Remember, anything to the first power doesn't really do anything. So this is the same as 4 times 0.45, which if I plug that into my calculator, I get 1.8. So equals 1.8. Okay, let me just switch my color so we don't get confused here. Okay, and then we remember that anything to the 0 power is 1. So if we're plugging in 0 for our x value, we're going to get our y-intercept. And our y-intercept in this case is the number in front, which is 4. So I'm going to show that. So this is 4 times 0.45 to the 0 power, which is equal to 4 times 1, which is 4. Okay. And then we're going to plug in 5 and see what we get. So let me change my color one last time. So I have 0.45 to the 5th power. So I'm going to plug that into my calculator. So 4 parentheses 0.45. That caret key means to the power of 5. So then I get a decimal, and I'm going to only write 2 decimal places. So 0.07. So those are my answers. Okay. So, yeah, we're just plugging in all the numbers inside the parentheses. So you guys are going to do 3 through 10 on your own. I'm going to give you some time to answer the problem, and then I'm going to go over it. Okay. So go ahead and start working on number 3. You're finding f of 1, and then you're finding f of 0, then you're finding f of 5. Okay, so this is what you should have got. So if we plug in 1, this is 1/2 times 3 to the 1st power, which is 1/2 times 3, which is 3 over 2, or if you did it on a calculator, you would have got 1.5. Okay, now let's check 0. So we know that this is 1/2 3 to the 0 power, which is 1/2 times 1, which is 1/2, which makes sense because 1/2 is our y-intercept. And then if you plug in 5, we have 1/2 3 to the 5th power equals, typed it in my calculator, 1 over 2 parentheses 3 to the power of 5 is 243 over 2. So if on my calculator they give it to me in a fraction, I'm going to go ahead and leave it in the fraction. But if you, let's just say you were using your phone, and more likely than not, you would get it in decimal form, that would be 121.5. 121.5. Okay. Okay, go ahead and work on number 4. You're finding f of 1, f of 0, and f of 5. Okay, this is what you should have got. So we have 5 times 1/2 to the first power, which is 5 times 1/2, which is 5/2, or 5/2 is the same thing as 2.5. Okay, now let's plug in 0. So then we have 5 times 1/2 to the 0 power, which is the same as 5 times 1, because anything to the 0 power is 1, which is 5. And again, this makes sense because 5 is our y-intercept. Okay, now let's plug in 5. So 5 times 1/2 to the 5th power. We're going to type that into our calculator. So, let me delete this. Okay, so 5 parentheses 1/2 to the 5th power is 5 over 32, or 5 over 32 is the same as 0.16. 0.16, and I rounded that to 2 decimal places. Okay, go ahead and start on number 5. So on number 5, you're finding f of 1, f of 0, and f of 5. Okay, so this is what you should have got. So we have 3 times 1.45 to the first power, which is the same as 3 times 1.45, which is 3 times 1.45, 4.35, so equals 4.35. We know that anything, if we have to plug in 0 for x, that's always our y-intercept. So right away, I can just say that this answer is 3. If you're not sure how I'm getting that, look back up at 1 through 4. And then f of 5, we're going to do 3 times 1.45 to the 5th power. So 3 parentheses 1.45. Oh, I think I forgot to put that parenthesis in there. There, 3 parentheses 1.45 to the 5th power. And I'm going to round it to 2 decimal places, so 19.23 is equal to 19.23. Okay. Now you're working on number 6. You're finding f of 1, f of 0, and f of 5. Okay, this is what you should have got. So 1/2 times 3 over 4 to the first power is the same as 1/2 times 3 over 4, which is 3 over 8. And 3 over 8, if you got it in decimals, would be 0.38. So equals 0.38. Okay. Remember, if we plug in 0 for x, we get the y-intercept, and our y-intercept is 1/2. And then we plug in 5 in for x. So 1/2 times 3 over 4 to the 5th power is equal to, let's check that out. So 1/2 parentheses 3 over 4 to the power of 5. We get 243 over 2048, which in decimal form is 0.19. 0.19. Okay. Go ahead and work on number 7. You're finding f of 1, f of 0, and f of 5. Okay, this is what you should have got for number 7. So for f of 1, we have 4 over 5 times 3 to the 1st power, which is 4 over 5 times 3, which is 12 over 5, or in decimal form, that would be 2.4. So equals 2.4. And then remember, if we plug in 0 for x, we get the y-intercept. In this case, the y-intercept is 4 over 5. And then lastly, we're going to plug in 5. So we have 4 over 5 times 3 to the 5th power. We're going to plug that into our calculator. 4 over 5, oops, fix that. 4 over 5, parentheses, 3. I think I clicked too many there. 3 to the 5th power is 972 divided by 5, or in decimal form, that would be 194.4. Okay, now work on number 8. You're finding f of 1, f of 0, and f of 5. So this is what you should have got for f of 1. So this is 1/4 times 14 to the 1st power, which is equal to 1/4 times 14, which is equal to 7 over 2. And in decimal form, that is 3.5. Yes, okay. And then if we plug in 0 in for x, remember we get our y-intercept, and our y-intercept is 1 over 4. And then lastly, let's plug in 5. So 1 over 4 times 14 to the 5th power. So we have 1 over 4, parentheses, 14, caret key, 5. Okay, this gives us 134,456. Okay, go ahead and work on number 9. You're finding f of 1, f of 0, and f of 5. Okay, this is what you should have got. So for 3 to the 7 power, 3 times 7 to the 1st power is equal to 3 times 7, which is 21. And then remember, anything where we plug in 0 in for x, we get the y-intercept, and the y-intercept is going to be 3. And then lastly, let's plug in 5. So 3 times 7 to the 5th power. Let's see what we get. 3, parentheses, 7, caret key to the 5th power. We get 50,421. And then work on the last problem. Number 10, you're finding f of 1, f of 0, and f of 5. Okay, and this is what you should have got. So for f of 1, this is 1.67 times 0.15 to the 1st power, which is equal to 1.67 times 0.15, which is, let's type this in, 1.67 times 0.15. Okay, so we get to 2 decimal places 0.25. And then remember, anything where we plug in 0 in for x, we're going to get the y-intercept. So for this one, we're going to get 1.67. And then lastly, we're going to plug in 5. So 1.67, 0.15 to the 5th power. So 1.67, parentheses 0.15, caret key 5. We get, we're going to do a couple decimal places here. So 0.000127. Okay, that's your answer. Remember, if you have any questions about this topic, please contact me at my school email. Thank you.